This is episode J of Rakaia 1899, and it's time for James O'Neill to grab Rakaia's best lamp and go well back down the tracks. Episode J, get it? Hey.
I'm very fond of that. I'd rather have a big
Driver Gardner brought his train into Rakaia 2 minutes quicker than what he was allowed by way of the working notice. So he covered the distance of about 17 miles from Ashburton to Rakaia at an average speed, start to stop, of around 25.5 miles per hour. He cut off steam in the dip, and at that time he estimated his speed at 25 miles per hour. It was an estimate in 1899 because locomotives back then did not have speedometers. But it's an estimate that fits with his running time. He whistled for a signal about 1/4 of a mile out from the facing points, and he got a green from the platform and he came on in. He stood his locomotives at the north water tanks at Rakaia, with the tail of his train about 3 carriage lengths south of the ultimate point of impact. That means that Henry Curson, the guard of the first picnic train, stepped off the sideways of his guard's van and onto the lower level platform at Rakaia, about here, at where the south water tanks used to stand. And he did so 2 minutes earlier than scheduled. In all of his subsequent evidence, he never explained why it was that he wanted the extra 2 minutes. And it doesn't particularly matter, save that it serves to highlight the differences between the management of the first train and the management of the second picnic train. As he stepped off, he saw John May and James O'Neill, the one sending the other well back down the tracks. O'Neill had Rakaia's best lamp, and John May regarded O'Neill as the best man at Rakaia for such an important job as safeguarding the rear of the standing train. So on a wild and wet evening, James O'Neill walked off in the general direction of Chertsey, and at some stage during his trudge he walked up to the engine of the Methven branch train that was parked up waiting for its turn to leave Rakaia at roughly the location of the South Town Belt level crossing. We can still see a likely line of gravel here indicating the path of the Methven branch. And according to the Methven crew, it was a quick conversation between them and O'Neill comparing times, something that railway men were encouraged to do. From there, James O'Neill walked another 50 yards or so down the main line, and he had to swap sides so that he was on the driver's side when he displayed his red lamp. So we know that the red lamp's signal was given roughly 350 yards beyond the platform where it ordinarily would have been given. He got to his position before the second train's headlight became visible on its run down from Chertsey. It's a straight run, and if you stand at the Orford Forest Road level crossing, you can see the traffic up at Chertsey crossing in the distance on the highway. And as he says, he waited for U284 to show itself as it climbed out of the dip and cleared the Orford Road level crossing. As the train approached him, he heard a long whistle for a signal that almost immediately merged into 3 short whistles for brakes down. James O'Neill couldn't judge the speed of the train as it passed him, other than being too fast to stop. That's reasonable, judging speed from a single headlight as it approaches you from more or less dead on would be a guess more than a judgment. Over at the Methven engine, Driver Hughes and Fireman Mackay had their attention drawn to Harry Carter's whistling for brakes. They estimated the speed of the second picnic train as between 15 and 20 miles per hour when it entered the station limits. Curson, May, Highland, Gardner, guard, station master, driver heard the whistling for brakes, and they all reacted in a way that suggests very clearly that they were tuned in to this sort of danger. Curson went to the front of the station building to get a good line of sight to his engine drivers and signalled go ahead with his lamp. Station master May did exactly the same, but probably from further back on the platform. Each acted without reference to the other because there was no time to communicate between station master and guard. Up front, driver Gardner let steam into his now cold cylinders to warm them, opened his sander and told his fireman to look back and look out for a green signal. Driver Highland on the second locomotive of the first picnic train did pretty much the same thing. And as each fireman called green and as each driver opened the regulator and they got their train sharply into motion, driver Highland gave his whistle a quick pop to warn anyone in the yard that the train was moving forward. None of those greens should be taken as a proceed in the normal sense. All four men on the two footplates knew full well that train 21 South hadn't arrived and that the line north from Rakaia was not clear. And it's here that Rakaia's unusual yard and the presence of the bridge play a role, the yard providing far more room to move ahead safely without leaving the yard limits, and the bridge speed limit meaning that if 21 South did turn up, it would turn up at a crawl. So from James O'Neill's point of view, he would have seen the headlights come up out of the dip as it approached the Orford Forest Road level crossing. It is about here on the second picnic train that Frank Mather screwed down the tender's handbrake. But it wasn't until they got to our location here with James O'Neill holding his red lamp that Harry Carter cut in the locomotive air brake and the tender air brake and whistled for down brakes. As the guards van of the second picnic train went by, James O'Neill sung out at the person he saw on the guards van's platform. That was James Burrows. It isn't recorded what he said, doesn't much matter. It was too late for the guards to do anything anyway, and they had in fact already screwed down the brake. Also, it's worth noting that neither Burrows or Fitzpatrick remembered hearing the whistling for signal. That's probably got a lot to do with the direction that the wind was blowing. What James O'Neill then did is he turned around and he walked back to the station. He heard the sound of the collision, but the collision to his ear was so slight, again that's possibly because of the direction of the wind, that he thought there would be hardly any damage. What he found when he got back was the colony's worst railway disaster and a whole heap of paperwork. And we'll get into that in a subsequent episode.
I'm very fond of that. I'd rather have a big bow, 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 bow. Daddy wasn't buying a bow, wow.
Like, subscribe, enjoy, don't enjoy, but whatever you do, next time you're passing through mid-Canterbury, call into this museum. It's a gem. Cheers.